Hello, this is going to be like a series for Jupiter conjunctions or Jupiter aspect with different planets. So, as you know, in Vedic astrology, it's always better if the planet is on its own in a sign. However, some people have got two planets in a sign, or three, or four, or sometimes even five or more. And but I'm going to do today, start with Jupiter conjunctions or aspects, and we go from there. Clearly, the aspect is going to be better with Jupiter, any planet actually, because obviously, if there is one agenda per house, it's so much better than having two agendas per house. So, I feel as though it's always better if the planets are particularly if they're friendly towards each other in good condition, if they could be aspecting each other rather than being together, because that kind of means that two people are talking at the same time. So you can make things, but obviously we've got no choice. We have chosen what we've chosen, and we're dealing with what we're dealing because we chose to do this. So I'm just going to go through the indications of Jupiter, and then as through this we'll go through different planets and what it's like being with Jupiter. So obviously, Jupiter and Venus are two absolute benefics. With Jupiter, I'm going to just put so-called, because Venus generally, unless it is a bad planet for you, is the planet that does not discriminate in any way, shape or form. But Jupiter, on the other hand, Jupiter is a bit fussy, and it does kind of like once it's a bit choosy about what and whom it kind of is connected with, if you like. So anyway, let's have a look, because that once we go through it, I'll give you some more information about Jupiter. So Jupiter is planet of the bigger picture, basically. It's planet of contentment, joy. It's Jeeva karaka. That means it's life force, basically. And it creates opportunity, optimism. It's planet of learning, wisdom, teaching, higher knowledge, happiness, joy, wealth, education. It's the karaka, or the significator for children, which is our biggest joy. It's the planet that we look for in terms of religion, justice, travel, because it rules 9th natural sign of the zodiac and 12th natural sign of the zodiac. So 12th house is spirituality, faraway lands, and 9th house is very much to do with pilgrimage, or basically going away for, say, education and coming home, and religion, belief system. This planet of spirituality, as I said, belief system, it's idealistic planet. It rules all forms of things like psychology, those kind of philosophy, and planet of expansion, and also it's how we set our goals, if you like. It rules, as I said, Sagittarius and Pisces, and they could not be two more different signs, really, because Sagittarius is very focused on goals, much more goal oriented than as Pisces. Pisces is much more floaty, go with the flow of life, because also water sign, and it's a more creative sign. Whereas Sagittarius is much more like about getting the job done. And whether it's you always want to have a look at your Sagittarius, where it falls in your chart, because even if it's, say, for example, if it's your 3rd house, so that will be your Libra, Sagittarius means that everything that you say, because this planet is how you communicate, 3rd house, has a goal, has a message, has a direction. So it is, wherever Sagittarius falls in our chart, it has a direction, it has a focus, it's got a means of getting there, and we can be a little bit more direct about that in a sense. Any planet that is actually in Pisces is a little bit lost anyway, because it's not grounded, because it's Pisces, it rules feet, and feet and a water sign, it's a strange setup really, isn't it, unless if you're a mermaid. And so we're not really completely grounded about any planets that fall in Pisces, generally speaking. So it's more connection with other realms really. So, and Jupiter is friendly with Mars, Sun, Moon, Mars, Sun, Moon, and also I would say with Ketu as well. But it's neutral with Saturn, and it's unfriendly enemies with Venus, Mercury, and I would say it's not good with Rahu. Rahu can bring deception, you know. So it's and this is our ethics really. This planet, so it's not going to go very well. As I said, you know, it's Jupiter can be led by class, it can discriminate, it can be a little bit snobbish as a planet, and it can make us be a little bit too idealistic. Like, for example, if it's in your seventh house, this is the sort of person they want to be with, they've got to be like this, they've got to be like that, they've got to come from that sort of background, that kind of thing. So they could actually, somebody with Jupiter in the seventh house can have those kind of ideas, and in a sense what will happen is like they could really overlook really wonderful partners because of that, because obviously they don't live in the right side of town, they don't drive the right car, they, you know, that kind of thing can be very much the theme for Jupiter. So that's something to be aware of. Whereas Venus is not like that, because they see the with Venus they see the potential in the person. Jupiter can't see that potential. So this is the difference between them. This is where you can get a bit naughty. So for me, Jupiter, for example, what it does, it has an it actually impacts my third house. So what it does is like I'm constantly learning, and then I really need Saturn, which luckily I do have that helping. It kind of makes me much more grounded and brings it together, because if I was just to let Jupiter do his thing, I'll be constantly doing third house stuff, and I can literally be on course after course after course after course, and I'm too old to be studying. I finished education in 1980, so well, that was just like teenage years, but just generally speaking, you know, it can just keep you going for years, and you be constantly studying, because you always feel as though there is an ocean of information and I need to be diving in there. So really it's good if then, you know, Saturn does ground you and actually think, well, how about consolidating? You know, there's no point learning if you don't put it together and utilize it. So yeah, it can be a little bit naughty like that. So anyway, so that's kind of what Jupiter is all about really. And I just wanted to just say Jupiter rules the liver and loves sugary foods. So Jupiter is good for some, obviously it's going to be good for some ascendant and not so good for other ascendants. So you'd always want to just like make sure that you look at all of those things as well. Don't think that it's just because it's Jupiter is going to be good for you. It's not that case at all. It's not a good planet, for example. It's definitely not a good planet for Libra ascendant or for Taurus ascendant. It can create lots of difficulties for them. So yeah, but I find even if it's a bad planet for them, in transit it's a lot more gracious really. You know, it does work really well for that. And overall, I just want to just say that it is the planet of, it does give you opportunities, which is the most amazing thing about Jupiter. Right, so now I'm going to do Jupiter conjunctions. Thank you. Jupiter rules Thursdays. You rules color yellowy kind of orangey, mustardy colors. And it's exalted in Cancer, which is a sign of family and being a unit together, having each other's back, and debilitated in Capricorn, which is all about status and achievement. So it's doesn't really like that as such. It also, yellow diamonds are ruled by Jupiter, and citron, which is a beautiful, they're both very beautiful and create that optimism, you know, that yellow color. So that's pretty lovely. Okay, let's start the conjunctions or aspects with other planets. Hello, this video is for Jupiter, Ketu, or South Node of the Moon conjunction. So as we just did, I just recently did video on Rahu, which is Rahu Jupiter. So Rahu is the head of the serpent, again, another shadowy planet, and Rahu is the one with the head. So he constantly sees things, wants things, can't really digest them. Now Ketu is the body without the head, so it doesn't see anything, it's got no desires, that kind of thing, so it's indifferent about everything. Now Ketu co-rules Scorpio with Mars. This is the reason why they say that there is karma attached to Scorpio and Aquarius, because they're co-ruled by the nodes. And so wherever Ketu sits is where we've done before in our previous lives, so we have plenty of experience about it. So we're quite well informed about it. That's why it's not really that interested about that house. So this is why we have to look at the house opposite where Rahu is, and that's where it's where the focus is, if you like, what we have to do in this lifetime. They say, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of divided about this, but I do use it sometimes, you know, for world events, really, because Ketu is like Jupiter and Rahu, it's got trinal aspects too. So it doesn't aspect the house opposite, but it does aspect fifth houses and ninth houses away. And I use that more actually for the world, like mundane astrology, than I do in the actual what you like in the charts of people, because in a sense, if you know, aspects are all about like drishti, so it's a glance. So if you haven't got any eyes, how are you going to do that, you know? But it also means that obviously those things are ending. So in transit is quite good, because you know something is coming to an end. So Ketu is where, as I said, we have knowledge and experience, and so we're kind of not that interested in it. Or the people who maybe their ascendant is weak and the courage is not there to go forward in life, it's they hold on to what they know. So if, for example, if Ketu is in the seventh house, they're holding on to that with dear life. That's what they want to do. Whereas they should be here doing things for Rahu, which is in the first house, but they keep wanting to be in a relationship, even though the relationship is really abusive, and Ketu can give that. So, but that is what I know, so I'm going to hold on to it. So sometimes it's to a person's detriment, really holding on to things to do with Ketu, because we're supposed to be letting go of that and get on with the house opposite. The actually healthiest way is to, when as we get older, to tackle the things to do with the opposite house where Rahu is, while still holding on to that house as well, but not necessarily constantly looking at that house, you know. And I always think a good remedy for Ketu is, particularly if it's in your first house or with your ascendant, if Jupiter is your ascendant, just keep looking in the mirror, because just just not so much grounding, but because you just got to connect to yourself, because they're so disconnected with self if it's in the first house. So yeah, anyway, so it's obviously it's the planet of no interest. It's moksha seeking, so it wants to let go and not materialistic. It's a bit confused, it's detached, it's cold, it's very sharp. It's great for mathematics, actually. It's the odd person out. They dress differently. They if they got holes and things in their clothes, they're not bothered. And Jupiter is obviously spirituality, religion, ethics, higher knowledge, learning, wisdom, philosophy, that kind of thing. So it's now sitting with a planet that it's not really that bothered. But the thing is, though, the worst thing about this can be, if person really tackles it nicely, they can deal with it, it's the karaka of a significator of children, so they could be like not that bothered about their children sometimes. You know, so that can be a bit difficult for the children, but not necessarily always. You know, that's the thing. You just don't know, because it really depends on the person, on the so many other things on the chart. So this is when people question, you know, I've got this, what does it mean? I don't know, because it could be so many things. So yeah, so Ketu is pierces, it's sharp like Mars. So if it's in the third house, Jupiter will expand the communications, and it'd be sharp, you know, it'd be really good as in terms of editing and all that kind of things, quite witty if it was in Mercury sign maybe, but it could be sharp and harsh, you know, and it can take away from you things that are important to you as well, like family, depending on the sign, you know, family, wealth, children, you know, all that kind of stuff. So you've got to just be careful to deal with it with really fully aware. And that's, if Jupiter is strong, that's really good, because Jupiter will the moksha seeking planet now can actually get the wisdom and the knowledge necessary to actually follow the right route, if you like. And so it could also be that eighth house is like really kind of like getting the information with the wisdom and learning of and higher knowledge of Jupiter, and then that actually can be pretty good. So it can, if it's used properly and dealt with, and if it's a good planet, because don't forget, shadowy planets can also be really good planets for certain ascendants too. So it's not always bad. But yeah, there is something unusual about these people. They could also be the sort of people who mix all different strange colors and patterns together and make it really work. So in that sense, they can have their own sort of individualistic ways too. I know somebody in our family actually who is very, very much like that, because I have this person who has never been bothered by anything material at all, not interested in clothing, in living in a nice house, living in, you know, having a car, having the latest phone, nothing, none of that matters to him at all. So he's probably got Ketu on the ascendant. And but he's very interested about what he wants to do. He's always preaching, because Jupiter is preaching, and he's quite religious, and he's really overly religious to a way that actually sitting with him can be a little bit uncomfortable, because he's always like trying to push his agenda. And even if you're really religious, it can be off-putting because he's just overly that way. So I don't think he realizes how he comes across actually. So maybe he's in the third house, I don't really know. But yeah, so it's very strange, you know. So also Jupiter could be his ascendant lord, but he's very humble, he's very, very knowledgeable. He really is a very, very charitable soul. He's very good, but he's very pushy about it's almost got that religion, that his path and all of that is doing the righteous thing, but you know, it's just far too important. And it just takes over all conversations. So it's very difficult staying with him, because also like, you know, family members have, even though he's really quite old now, have got to help him just sort of think, you know, you need to really look after your personal, you know, attire and everything, or maybe you need a new computer or something, you know, because he's really intelligent and he's got this massive job. Yeah, so he's literally very, very important person, but yeah, he's just not bothered at all about his looks or any of that really. He's never really traveled. That's what I mean. And it's like somebody who's never traveled is trying to tell you that you should do this, and you sort of think your world is like really one-dimensional, you know. So it is a bit difficult. Anyway, let's do the I'm not saying this is a bad thing always, because he's really generous, and part of the reason he earns a lot of money, but he's got nothing because he gives everything away, and that obviously has created massive issues in his family, because his wife is not like that, you know. So he's very much different to his wife and family, because he always got to do the right thing by other people. He can't bear having food if somebody else is hungry, so he's all so charitable. Anyway, let's do the ascendants on the next video. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.